So, this past week, Nintendo held their first Nintendo Direct in the Switch 2 era, and as we all know, it was a Nintendo Direct focused entirely on Donkey Kong Bonanza. This was something that a lot of people found kind of divisive before the Direct itself actually aired, because a lot of people have been hoping for a traditional Nintendo Direct, which certainly makes sense, and as I discussed in my last video, I also would love to get a traditional Direct now that the Switch 2 has officially released, but in the same breath, I am so insanely excited for Donkey Kong that I was personally glad that the first Direct was focused on Nintendo's next big game, which is Donkey Kong, the return of the franchise, at least in terms of a brand new game, in 11 years, since Tropical Freeze in 2014. However, the Direct itself was so overwhelmingly amazing that pretty much everyone feels like it's one of the best Nintendo Directs that we've ever seen, definitely one of the best game-focused Nintendo Directs we've ever seen, and it's convinced a lot more people to be a lot more excited for Donkey Kong simply because the Direct itself was so well done, and they had been keeping so many secrets about the game that part of what made the Direct, in my opinion, so insanely successful and well-received is the fact that they had a ton of brand new information and gameplay mechanics and story beats to show us in this Nintendo Direct. It was literally the perfect script for something like this. In fact, when you juxtapose the Donkey Kong Direct to the Mario Kart World Direct, I think that it's a great showcase for what makes a Direct work and what makes a Direct maybe not work as much. Because Mario Kart World, as everyone had discussed, really didn't show us anything new. I mean, other than maybe a few characters and like a handful of new items, they really didn't show or tell us a lot about the game. So that Direct, in terms of blowing everyone's mind and exciting people about Mario Kart things we didn't know about, it just didn't succeed. They had pretty much shown and told us everything we needed to know about Mario Kart World in the April 2nd Direct for the Switch 2 itself. Whereas, like I said, with Donkey Kong, there was way more secrets that they were keeping and way more new information to reveal in that Direct, so that's what made it a lot more successful. Which now helps me transition to the actual conversation I want to have with you guys today, which of course has to do with Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, the most important game to release in the entirety of humanity's history, the fourth Metroid Prime game. This thing is finally coming out, hopefully soon, if it sticks to 2025, which personally I think it will. And everyone's wondering, what's the release date for Metroid Prime 4? When are they going to tell us the release date for Metroid Prime 4? A lot of people have been asking for, I'll say, different marketing for the game, and I haven't felt that way. I've loved everything I've seen so far, but I'm sure that some of my Metroid superfan bias is probably coming into a degree. I'm shaking with anticipation for the game. It's going to be everything that I want, of course. But some folks feel like the trailers and even some of the treehouse footage we've seen hasn't really sold them on it or really done justice to the game and the franchise. And so when will Nintendo give us something more about Metroid Prime 4? Well, in my opinion, the success and quality of the Donkey Kong Direct showcases why Nintendo really needs to do the exact same thing for Metroid Prime 4. I think that now is the time, more than ever before in the history of Metroid as a franchise, now more than before, it is the perfect time for Nintendo to do something different and spotlight the franchise and the newest game in a different way. Now, Metroid Dread, in my opinion, had fantastic reveal, fantastic marketing cycle. I loved the Dread reports and the website that they had, and a ton of promotion online and on social media, overview trailers, interviews with Yoshio Sakamoto. I mean, they did what they needed to do, and it succeeded because Metroid Dread became the best-selling Metroid game of all time in a matter of like a few months. Yes, it didn't blow the doors off of the franchise. It didn't sell 10 million units or anything, but selling 3.5 million is big for Metroid. And while the install base of the Switch certainly helped, I also think that their really good marketing, again, in my opinion, led to Dread being the success it was. Now, with Metroid Prime 4 being a game that, yes, it's cross-generation and it is getting a Switch 1 release, but it is getting an optimized, better next-generation Switch 2 release as well, this is the time for them to change maybe how they market. And I think, again, building off of the success of the Donkey Kong Direct, they need to do something similar for Metroid Prime 4, and, even more exciting, I personally think they will do this. The last Switch 1 trailer for Metroid Prime 4, the one that happened on March 27th, just a week before the April 2nd Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, that confirmed that there was a cross-gen version of the game, that little 3.5-minute trailer was, I think, a step in the right direction. And I know, very strange, some people just didn't seem to love that trailer. And for the life of me, I can't figure out why. I thought it was fantastic. It just, even on the Switch one, it was so beautiful to see how the game looked. And it also gave us a lot of information. That's the trailer that had a narrator, similar to like the Donkey Kong and the Mario Kart Directs, that informed us about the planet Vuros and the fact that that's where the bulk of Metroid Prime 4 is going to take place. It introduced us to the idea of the Lemorn, the indigenous race and species to Vuros. It showed us the psychic abilities. It teased a new suit at the end and some gameplay mechanics, a few bosses, and all sorts of elements about the environment and the gameplay and Samus and her journey, and it was a great trailer, in my opinion. And again, it was almost like a 3-minute overview trailer, or a 3-minute like super duper super mini Nintendo Direct, partly because of the narration that was giving us information throughout that trailer. And so, in my opinion, coming off of the few trailers and information we've gotten about Metroid Prime 4, the fantastic Treehouse footage that occurred on April 2nd for the Switch 2 version of the game, running in 4K 60 frames per second, using and showing off the mouse controls and all that good stuff, I think they need to basically do what that 3-minute trailer was, but make it 10 or 15 minutes. And I think it would work because I personally believe there are way more secrets that we don't know about the game. I mean, we know so little about the context of Sylux in this game. Maybe not so little. We know enough to understand that he's working with the space pirates. This, to be fair, did come from the Treehouse footage. He's working with the space pirates. They've got mind-controlling Metroids, and he and or the space pirates are going after that artifact, and he's even the one responsible for activating that artifact, which in my opinion will probably set off the events of the game and somehow transport Samus to the planet Vuros, and then all the crazy kookiness is going to happen from there. So we do understand, I guess, more about Sylux than I initially said. However, I think we need to know more. And Metroid games, and Metroid Prime games in particular, they are so dense with lore and content and locations and gameplay that I think they could spend 15 minutes peeling back a lot of the layers of that game and showing it to the people and getting people more excited, both super fans like me and even some newcomers or some folks who are maybe on the fence and would need to be more convinced to play Metroid Prime 4. They could show us a ton in a 15-minute Nintendo Direct that is emulating the fantastic format of the Donkey Kong Direct while still leaving the bulk of the game and the story and the locations a mystery. That's what I think they should do for Metroid Prime 4. And in the Switch 2 era, with the games we know filling out the rest of 2025, I'm just going to be honest, I think that that's what's going to happen. Here's what I actually predict will happen step by step. We just had the Donkey Kong Direct this past week. In a few more weeks, the day after my birthday, by the way, Donkey Kong Bananza will release. We're all going to buy it, play it, love it. I'm sure it's going to score maybe in the 80s on Metacritic, if we're lucky in the 90s. We as fans are going to love the game, and I would say about, 2 or 3 weeks after Donkey Kong has been out, we'll get the next and first full traditional Nintendo Direct in the Switch 2 era that is focused probably 80% on Switch 2 games and cross-generation games, and in that Direct, I believe, we will get the official date for Metroid Prime 4, and they will probably tease us that they will be holding a Metroid Prime 4 specific Direct that's going to happen probably 3 weeks before the game comes out. So let's pretend in, maybe mid-August, we get a full Nintendo Direct, and let's say they tell us in November Metroid Prime 4 is going to release. I think that maybe the last week of October is when they'll give us the Nintendo Direct for the game. And I'm just pulling dates out of my butt here, so don't take anything as fact. I'm just kind of riffing and speaking off of the top of my dome. So who knows? I know some people are going to push back and say, there's no way that Metroid Prime 4 will release in December. Don't think about it that hard. Like I said, I'm just giving dates as examples. And so this is why I'm just so excited about what I see Nintendo doing in the Switch 2 era. I mean, First of all, I just love the Switch 2, as I've said before. Second of all, I'm so excited for Donkey Kong, and I love the Direct that they gave us. Third of all, I think they're going to push Metroid Prime 4 heavily. As long as it sticks to 2025, I think we're going to see both in the next traditional Nintendo Direct and in a Metroid Prime 4 specific Direct, a ton of meat put behind everything that they're doing in terms of marketing for this game. It's going to be awesome. I expect a Nintendo Direct, hopefully one that's more like the Donkey Kong Direct and not like the Mario Kart Direct. Give us new details, new information, get our mouths watering at the prospect of the story and gameplay of Metroid Prime 4 that we don't currently know, while still leaving the bulk of the important stuff a mystery. I know that they can do that. And as I said earlier, they did something different with the marketing for Metroid Dread, and it was great, and it was successful. Now I think is the first time that a Metroid game really deserves its own Direct, because we've never had a Metroid-focused Direct before. This would be brand new for the franchise if they do this. And I feel like all of their biggest 2025 Switch 2 games are probably going to get a Direct. Mario Kart World, Donkey Kong, they've already gotten them. And with Metroid and Pokemon and Hyrule Warriors still coming this year, I feel like we might get a Direct for all of those. And if I'm remembering right, they either did a Direct or maybe it was like a Treehouse for the last Hyrule Warriors game, the Age of Calamity. They did something for that. So that's why I think they will probably do something for Age of Imprisonment. And if they're going to do it for Hyrule Warriors, you bet your ass they're going to do it for Metroid Prime 4 as well. So that's what I think. These are my kind of predictions. You know, they're not hard predictions. This is just me as the Metroid superfan that I am, talking about what I hope will happen and what I do really tend to think will happen. We're going to get a Direct for Metroid Prime, just like we got one for Donkey Kong. So this is what I think. Share your own thoughts below. Thanks, of course, for tuning in, guys, and I will see you next time.